Hello, Tom LeVecchia here with the New Theory podcast continuation. We announced it roughly 2 weeks ago, and the demand has been overwhelming. Some big names, some regular folks, which we like to have, like myself, so we can kind of hear stories and learn from people on the grind. Today, we have a very, very special guest out of Washington, D.C., Mr. Jordan Cooper. How you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing great, Tom. I'm happy to be here with you.
We're glad to have you. All right, so we like to deep dive pretty quickly. So you're millennial, and you're kind of rocking around in the political space. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on and what's your background.
Sure. Well, being a millennial, I'm 32 years old, born in 1985, and I first got my toes wet in Maryland politics in 1989, 1990, my next door neighbor ran for Board of Education. But seriously, I've been engaged in Maryland politics for about 14 years. I was a student page in the Maryland House of Delegates in high school. After college, I spent a few years working for a Baltimore delegate as his staff person. I've been on 24 campaigns, and in 2014, I ran my own campaign for the Maryland House of Delegates. So that's kind of the brief background on where I come from. I also have a career in health policy. I've worked for hospitals and health insurance companies, but have had an enormous amount of jobs, which I think is indicative of the millennial experience.
Okay, so hold on. So make sure I'm doing this correctly. You've been involved with politics your whole life, right? Excellent, right? Now, you ran your first campaign this last year?
No, sorry. In 2013, I opened a campaign for the 2014 election cycle. So that was a year and a half campaign that I ran as a candidate, as a Democratic candidate for delegate representing the most well-educated and among the wealthiest areas in the United States, Bethesda, Maryland.
Bethesda, well, like Chevy Chase or something it's called, right? In that whole area?
Exactly, yeah. It was called District 16.
Okay. With that being said, did you win?
I lost. I came in fifth place with 2,900 votes. Maryland's constitution is quite different than most other states. 45 states in the United States, the lower house of the state legislature, obviously Nebraska being exempt because they only have one house, but the bicameral legislatures, which there are 49, 45 of those have a 2-year term. But Maryland has a 4-year term, the same as the Senate, that starts and ends at the same time. And in most Maryland districts, here's the weird part, there are 3 delegates elected and 1 senator elected from the exact same district for the exact same term. So every voter is voting for 4 people to go to the state legislature every 4 years. So the voters choose the top 3 people. In my race, there was initially only 1 incumbent. Then there became 2 incumbents when somebody who said he preferred to run for attorney general realized that he wasn't going to win that race. So he jumped back in for his own seat. So when I started the campaign, there were 2 vacancies. By the time election day came, there was only 1 vacancy. And there were 8 people running, originally about 12. And I came in 5th place. I raised $60,000. I was only able to give myself a few thousand. All my competitors were able to give themselves, or most of my competitors were able to give themselves upwards of 6 figures from their own bank account. I was 27 years old when I started and 29 years old on election day.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of learnings there. Wait a second. When you raise money, you could pay yourself while you run?
Sorry, no, raised it from myself. So that means, I hit 12,000 doors personally. I worked 120 hours a week. I left my job, left my place, moved back in with my parents so I didn't have to pay rent anymore.
Jesus.
I spent all my time for a year and a half. I didn't drink alcohol. I didn't hang out with friends. I just worked on the campaign. I built up a team of 80 people over the course of a year and a half, knocking doors 3 to 6 hours a day, going to events every morning and evening. And I raised $20,000 knocking on people's doors, asking for their vote and their contribution. And I also had fundraisers. So in a total of $60,000 that I raised, I was able to contribute from my personal bank account a few $1,000s, whereas a lot of my competitors were able to dip into their bank account and say, I will take my personal $100,000 or my personal $150,000 and give it to my campaign without needing to ask for others to contribute.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So you were all in. Okay, and you did the old school grind. So you had to get the third place. You got fifth. What was the vote differential between fifth place and third place?
Third place got 7,500. I got 2,900. So I got about a third of the votes. I am going to be running again in next year's election, and voters can learn more about me at cooperformaryland.com.
All right, so that's actually respectable. So you got fairly close, especially in your first run. I do have a few questions though. Judging by the wealth of that area, and I'm going to generalize. Fuck it, right? Sorry to curse, but to generalize is probably Republican, right? Considering the area.
Well, interesting that you would correlate wealth with conservative leanings, but in fact, Bethesda is one of the more liberal areas in the United States. Admittedly, mean household income is $124,000 per household. Very well educated, where half of all adults have a master's degree or higher, but we're very liberal. We just elected Congressman Jamie Raskin to the House of Representatives in the most expensive congressional race in United States history.
Wow.
And at $20 million. So we're very liberal, but we're also very wealthy. And it's very competitive as a result.
Kind of like a New York City type thing. Okay, now Bethesda, is it old money? I should know more about it than I should. I used to work at pharmaceuticals. I know the FDA's house there, but it's a little bit more of old money, right?
I really can't say where all of the money comes from. I know that the largest employer in the area is the federal government.
Yeah.
We have the National Institutes of Health. We do have 4 Fortune 500 companies. We have Geico, we have Lockheed Martin, Marriott International, Discovery Communications, all in Montgomery County. There's just a lot of government contracting, defense industry. There's just a lot of research and science. Now, I did want to comment on something you said, Tom. You said that that the results were respectable in 2014 on election day, where I got a third of the votes I needed to win.
Yeah.
In terms of my campaign, I'm very proud of my campaign, and I think from an objective measure, my campaign for the Maryland House of Delegates was the most well-run and one of the best campaigns for the Maryland legislature in 2014.
Nice.
But that doesn't mean that the race itself is respectable. And that leads me to why I started a podcast. When you think of a district of 120,000 people, among the most wealthy and educated in the nation, which are correlated with high voter turnout,
Yeah.
then you think and you say, well, only 1 out of 10 adults eligible to vote participated in that election, and only 5 out of 6 registered Democrats participated. It gets a little bit more bleak. And the idea is, after meeting 40,000 people and working for 120 hours a week, 18 campaign, nobody cared, nobody voted. Even people gave me money, not all of them voted. So the thing is, how do you increase informed voter turnout? And that's why I created Public Interest Podcast.
Now you know what? I like it. I like the when I started talking to you, but I like it more now because you're like, you know what? Like I busted my ass. Don't get me wrong. Comparably, you did well. Like I'm a numbers guy, so you did do respectable. But you're right. You could have did better, and maybe you could have won if people did what they said they would do, or if the message was really, like, I hate to say this, but like educated voters, right, wherever you're from, should be in that area. And I don't know the other people, right? They could be good, they could be bad, who knows, right? But you seem like a bright guy, and you seem like an educated guy. At the very least, there should have been more supporters. I'll give you that, right? You might be hard on yourself, but I'll give you that. But let me ask you this though, because you seem like a smart guy, right? You're a smart guy. Why not run for local mayor, councilman? I'm not trying to downgrade your ambitions, but
Don, that's a good point. Let me address that real quick. So first of all, just to clarify earlier, though I got 33% of the amount of votes I needed to win, the guy who won only got 5% of the vote. of the whole population.
Wow.
So 95% of the population didn't vote for their elected officials. That includes children and it includes diplomats. So it's not entirely fair because it includes people who couldn't vote for him. But 95% of the population didn't vote for the elected official. That's pathetic. So you ask me, why not run for something lower? Definitely, very, very great question. I actually ran for and was actually elected the president of the Lux Manor Citizens Association, which is a 2,000-person civic association in North Bethesda. I won that. I did that. I was in that office for a year. Unlike New Jersey, and so I'm a little familiar with New Jersey. That's where my family's from. So I know that you guys have a town every other step. You walk to the library, you walk to get a coffee, and you go back to your parked car, and you've already hit 5 towns.
Not to mention, I think there's 22 counties where we have county government, which is very unique.
So in New Jersey, you guys have your own police and fire and schools and whatever, and libraries in every town. Montgomery County, we have 1 million people, we have a $5 billion budget, and we don't have towns, we don't have mayors, we don't have city councils for the most part. The largest places are actual places, Bethesda, Silver Spring. They are not actually incorporated municipalities. We do have Rockville and Gaithersburg with mayors and city councilmen, but most of Montgomery County is under the jurisdiction of the 9-person county council, and they make $115,000 a year salary compared to the $43,500 for the delegate. And there's a phenomenon where Maryland legislators are actually seen as a step below the council, and so delegates are going and running for county council because it's a full-time job with a 6-figure salary, which is quite counterintuitive for most of the other parts of the nation. But local office is more powerful and is seen as a step up above state office in Bethesda.
All right. So, okay, where in New Jersey is your family from?
So I was born in Bethesda. I was raised in Bethesda. I did a brief stint in college in New York, and then spent my life in Baltimore and Bethesda. I've lived abroad a little bit, but I'm a Marylander through and through.
Okay, so
my mom grew up in Maryland, but she was born in Brooklyn, and my dad was born and raised in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. Actually, his mom and dad were both council members there.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So we're New York Jews. Is what we are.
Got it. So here's the thing, right? So all right. So I'm trying to think out loud here because that's what these podcasts are for. So I don't say carpetbag it because it's not like if you go to another town over or rent an apartment somewhere and live in another area, especially like you're a millennial guy, so maybe you live in a cooler, hipper area. But why not go to a more favorable district? Because you're that hardcore and you're that into it. Why not go to a more favorable? Yeah, might as well go to a favorable district. No.
So there's a number of reasons why I lost in 2014, and one of those was I told you earlier about my decade and a half of political experience in Maryland. I thought that counted for something. And as a famous expression by Tip O'Neill, the former Massachusetts congressman and Speaker of the House, said, all politics is local. I had no idea that the work I had done in Annapolis and in Baltimore City meant nothing when I came to Bethesda and ran for office. They wanted to know, what have you done politically in Bethesda? Not that you're from here, whatever. So you got to imagine that, first of all, I lost. But I told you I put 120 hours a week in for a year and a half on the campaign, and I've been quite involved since then. I sit on a half dozen boards right now, and I'm always at events all the time, and it's all about relationships that you build with people and trust. So I told you, I'm running again for office in Bethesda next year. Yes, it's very competitive, tough, and expensive, but that's where I know the people have the relationships and put in the legwork. Had I known about Bethesda being so difficult ahead of time, and had I known that my time in Maryland politics didn't matter to voters in Bethesda, maybe I would have chosen to stay in the 46th district in South Baltimore, where I was very involved when I worked for a delegate. But I didn't, and I have put in my time and effort, and to rebuild that would just take years and years of work, because that's what I put into it. So yes, I could move elsewhere, but this is my home and my community and my relationships, and I think ultimately I want to serve my community, so this is where I'm staying.
Got it. No, I appreciate the stick-to-itness, but then you're gonna have to alter your strategy. I want to get that into that for a second. All right. So you ran, you lost. Okay. Now I come from a political family as well, where my brother-in-law ran for mayor of my town, small town Rosa Park, and lost. We were like devastated when he lost. Right. In retrospect, it turned out to be the best thing that happened to him because he became a county freeholder for like the last 25 years, many of which he served as chairman, and then now also is a county manager in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. That's obviously not a political position; it's a full-time position, but he served in politics faithfully for the last 25 some odd years, right?
Yeah.
So he's the exception, but just what I've seen, and I'll just give you what I've seen of successful politicians. Just what I've seen. I'm not talking national, kind of state level, what you're working for, right? I've seen either the lawyers that, or they have their kind of own business and they made their money, and then they jump into politics because they have the money, they have the influence, they kind of like cut their teeth in the private sector and then jump in, when the time's ready. Or kind of what you want to do is these career-long politicians, right? Where they want to make their life of service, which that's where you want to go. You don't seem motivated by money because if you were, you wouldn't have did what you did. However,
I have no money, and that's where I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
I have a condo in Bethesda, and sometimes I have to live with my girlfriend and rent it out because it's tough to make ends meet. If and just talking about your uncle there and losing, right? I lost. And then if I hadn't lost and been so frustrated with low voter turnout, maybe I never would have started Public Interest Podcast, where I'm interviewing Nobel Prize winners, Pulitzer Prize winners, senators, congressmen, governors, all kinds of ambassadors, all kinds of interesting people, and cabinet secretaries. And I'm trying to do that to increase familiarity with people, make public service more attractive, inspire people to do public service. I'm trying to combat the global rhetoric of hate, fear, and populism by exposing people to difference and having discussions with many different types of people. So I think that what I'm doing right now with the podcast is very much to advance the public interest, wouldn't have happened without losing, and at the same time, again, not making any money from it yet. So I'm driven by an idea of how do I make the world better, use my life to have a fulfilling life where I'm involved in public service. But on the other hand, the money thing has only ever been a distraction. When I've been doing health information technology, working in a hospital or insurance company, it's always just been a means to an end. And I hate the cubicle life. So I'm doing what I love, but I don't make any money. Or I do make some money and I'm hating it. And then that will later finance what I'm. So I think that's a very millennial perspective, just rotating in and out of jobs and leaving them at the drop of a hat to try to advance the public interest and only turning back when I need to make some money to finance, food in the belly.
Okay, so I want to finish the thought earlier because I want to let you speak, but I want to finish the thought. The other side is that people that go into lifelong politics, they usually hook up with a big mentor. Somebody who, I'm sorry, but Jersey's controlled by like 2 or 3 like state senators, and they can't run for national office because because they got to give up their cozy local contracts. I'm being honest, right? But my point being is they hook up with these guys early. They work on the campaign, maybe work at the law firm, whatever. They don't make a ton of money, but they get that mentorship and they become part of the machine. Now again, being part of the machine is not a bad thing per se if you're part of the right machine, right? So how are you doing, or how do you rank with the local Democratic Party? Because I believe you're a Democrat.
I'm involved with the Democratic Party as an area coordinator. We call it the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee, or MCDCC. But I'm definitely not necessarily perceived as the most establishment type guy. I shoot my mouth off. I say what I think. I'm very independent minded. I don't think the party is the end all be all. I think you do public service and you go into elected office not to serve the Democratic Party, but to serve the common interests of all people, including foreigners, children, Republicans, independents, Green parties. If they're a human being and they live where you're representing, you represent their interests, you got to work for them. I think the party is there as a vehicle for serving the public interest. I don't think the party is there as an end unto itself. I'm more independent than a lot of those people. So yeah, I think I have a lot of wonderful mentors, many of whom are part of the political Democratic establishment. I've gotten some wonderful endorsements in the past, but I'm not sure if I'm the traditional candidate And so having had these mentors, I've never really benefited from them bringing me votes or swooping me into office too easily. I'm kind of doing it all on my own, and they're friendly with me behind the scenes, but publicly, they're not really pulling any levers to make sure I get in.
Got it. Now, one thing is I bidded on some presidential campaigns. We didn't get the gigs, but the reason why Obama won, part of the reason why, when he started out, he actually, and they admitted this later on, is they bought Twitter followers. So when he was like running for office, he had like 1 million Twitter followers, and like, oh my God, who is this guy? He's got 1 million Twitter followers. Meanwhile, like half of them are fake, right? Axelrod bought them, right? But it was kind of fake it before you make it, right? And he was really the first to use social media to get the message out. And nowadays, especially you're a smart guy, I can target people that live in Bethesda that have this interest on this day at this time. Did you incorporate a digital social media strategy in 14 and it didn't work, or did you not and you plan to incorporate it in your next campaign?
I did incorporate a social media strategy. It was fantastic. I got to tell you, I love Barack Obama, but I have a problem with what you just said. And David Axelrod, what you just said, that seems quite disingenuous. I'm all about integrity. In fact, in the 1970s, we had 2 governors, one go to prison and one threatened with being in prison. One was Spiro Agnew, who was vice president of the United States. The other was Marvin Mandel. And they were replaced by a guy who ran on a platform of ethics and integrity by the name of Harry Hughes. He was governor of Maryland for 2 terms, ran on a platform of integrity. Well, Harry Hughes is now the chairman of my campaign committee. All right, because I'm about integrity. I'm about transparency. I'm about being honest and doing things the right way, and if necessary, the hard way. I'm not trying to lose or make things more difficult for myself, but I'm about being transparent, honest, and genuine. So I wouldn't buy any Twitter followers. I do things, everything's unique, sincere about me. So what did I do? I had Hootsuite. I scheduled out to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook posts at certain times and at certain events. I had an app developed for my campaign. The only campaign for the legislature in 2014 in Maryland, we had an app. People said, I don't know, do I live in District 16? I said, go to the Apple Store, type Cooper4MD, and download the app, and you open it, and it'll tell you based on where you're standing if you're in the district or not. And then there are some other functionalities. We got some press off that. I mean, I got a lot of earned media. You can see it at cooperformaryland.com. We did a great race to beat traffic. We got radio and TV. I raced a train and a car on a proposed Purple Line, which is a mass transit line on a bike trail. And I did a 30-minute bike race in a suit. So yeah, I think we did a fantastic job with social media. But again, you can't overcome money. And I was the only one whose name hadn't been on the ballot before. I was 29, but I looked like I was 19. My face is young. I was the only one without a house, a spouse, or a kid. So there are different things that go against you. But this time, there's another vacancy, and I hope the winds will blow more favorably in my direction.
Got it. Here's what I like about you. You're not afraid to call bullshit. I like that. I wasn't beating up Axelrod, but what I'm saying is when they started a campaign, they had a digital strategy. And in all fairness, I'll give you an example. You can hire me, right? And I can build up your ecosystem through social media. Even if it is the most honest and the highest level of integrity, the way the digital landscape works, like bots are just there, whether you want them or not. What I'm saying is what made them win partially, at least in the beginning, was, wow, who's this guy? And they adopted a social medium earlier, and however they got it, they got it. Obviously you want to take the high road, and I love that about you. Now, my only, and I want to give a drop pushback, and let's have a good discussion about this, because I know we will, is I love the fact that you got earned media. I love the fact that you're having a podcast, and I love the fact that you know what the hell you're talking about. But my concern is you just got to win within like the locals. How many square miles is your district?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Frank.
Okay, but
I'll give you a sense. We're the southwest corner of Montgomery County. We have 120,000 people. I can describe the streets that tell you the lines. If I had to guess, let's see, it's like 3 miles on the one, about, I'd say 7 miles on the other line, 5 miles. So it's like kind of like a rectangle. I'd say maybe 20 square miles, 25 square miles.
Okay, so I'm going to take a guess here, and you're welcome to confirm or deny. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess you may have more. I don't want to say the word fame. Okay, you probably have more brand recognition outside your area than inside your area. Is that a fair assessment, or am I wrong on that?
I think you'd be wrong about that. Why would you come to that conclusion?
Okay, because here's the thing, right? I look at your podcast. I love it. And you got some good people on there, right? And you got a lot of earned media. And earned media comes out and says, hey, Maryland, CBS Maryland, check out this great guy who's running locally here, right? So you almost like have some like impressions, and I'm talking media impressions. And I'm talking about messaging that like you hit it big, like you like made a mountain out of a molehill, right? But within the area of people that actually were pressing the lever, because here's the deal, I'm gonna give you a great compliment.
Well, let me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those people.
Give me the compliment.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a great compliment.
Okay.
Those people that get your message or hear you will vote for you. I'm just telling you right now, they will. As a marketer, I think that people that got your message and heard you because you did such a great job with media and such a great job with the campaign may have heard the message, but they weren't people who were able to vote for you. That's my assessment based on this conversation. I could be categorically wrong. But
yeah, it's a number of things I got to tell you. So first of all, people have short memories. If you appeared on the front page of the New York Times and then a year later walked up to somebody who only saw you on that front page, like, they wouldn't remember you. You know, that's the best exposure you could get in the world.
True.
I knocked on a door. They gave me money. Well, remember, I hit 12,000 doors at a rate of 25 houses an hour, a rate of $25 an hour. Jesus. And, I was knocking for 13 months. So I hit a door, and a year later, they get a few pieces of mail from me. They see me in the newspaper. Each super voter got 7 hits from me. But if they haven't seen me in a year, I knock in July, and come May, before the election in June, my competitor knocks at the door and says, oh, hey, you know what? Oh, what a nice guy. I'll vote for this guy. And they totally forgot that they promised to vote for me. And being one man, you can't get around. So, and you got to remember, politicians in our own minds, we're all celebrities, but nobody knows or cares about us. It's proved by the numbers. Nobody votes. True. Nobody knows who the congressman is. Nobody knows who. A lot of people didn't even know that they even had a state legislature. Excuse me. They said, oh, man, I love Chris Van Hollen, our congressman. Why would you run against him? I said, I'm not running. They said, well, you said the House. I don't understand. People don't understand. We have a separate constitution in every state, separate from the federal constitution, that we have a bicameral legislature in Annapolis, that we have a county council in Rockville, and that's totally separate from the Congress in D.C. So people are just not engaged, not informed. They may be very well educated and very intelligent, but in terms of local politics, they don't care. So nobody has name recognition. Not even the most popular politician gets a majority of votes.
Got it. Now. All right. So bottom line is you worked to your strengths in the last campaign. You grinded it out. You left everything on the field, right? Unfortunately, unfortunately came up a little short, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently this time? Because here's the deal. I don't know, even with social media, what are you going to do differently this time to win? Because, dude, I love you already. You got to win. We got to get you there, right? Yeah. What's going to happen strategically? What's your strategic shift going to be in order to bring home the gold this time?
So I think the difference is luck and brand. So I can tell you unequivocally, there is no way I can run a better campaign than 2014. In fact, I'm telling you, I'm more likely to win this time, and I'm going to run a worse campaign in 2018 than I ran in 2014, guaranteed. Now, we have some corrupt things happening in Maryland. 37.5% of the Montgomery County delegation to the legislature, meaning delegates and senators, more than a third, were appointed to the House or the Senate at some point instead of elected. And they can serve an appointed office for sometimes 3 years or so, which is a term and a half in most of other states. So why do I bring that up? You ask, how do I going to do it differently? There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of understanding who are your competitors and how do you square up against them? How much money are you able to raise? How many people remember your name in the ballot? How many people, do you have organizations that are willing to get behind you? Do they have a grudge against somebody in office that you can run against? There's a lot of dynamics that are completely outside of your control. Everything within my control, I'd say I executed 100% the way I wanted to in 2014. And it's a matter of, am I more competitive against this group of candidates next year than last? I have name recognition more with this podcast. I'm a homeowner now, so I own property that makes me seem more respectable. A few gray hairs. Those tiny things, they matter to voters. And people know me a little bit better, and that's the real difference. Is things that are really somewhat outside of my control.
Wow, and the funny thing is, those are the perceptions of what's needed in order to succeed. Jordan, I listen. I like it. I like it, and I like a spirited debate. And I would actually like to have you back on at a later date because I want to leave an invitation open. You're welcome to contribute, sending the link to New Theory if you'd like, because I think you have an opinion. I know you have an opinion. And I think you're not shy to share it. So I'm really happy to have you on. How can we find you? So again, I know you said it earlier, but how can we find you? Share that.
First of all, Tom, thanks. Love to be on this show. Would love to come back again. If any of your listeners are interested in reaching out to me, having a dialogue, I'm more than happy. My phone number and email address are on my website. You can reach me at contact@publicinterestpodcast.com. You can visit www.publicinterestpodcast.com. I'm on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You name it, I'm there. I'm on a dozen platforms. And again, my phone number and email are out there. I'm happy to have conversations with anybody who wants to advance the public interest.
Love it, Jordan Cooper. And we will look out for him. And hopefully 10 years from now, we'll be having looking back on this and seeing this as a springboard for Jordan and an illustrious political career. New Theory Podcast, Tom LeVecchia here.